subscribe to the channel. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Yeah!
And a boy!
How are we, lads?
We are live!
All right. Welcome back to the YouTube channel. I am Nick from Australia. Welcome to another live stream. It is a beautiful Monday night, December 5th, 2022, 7:42 p.m. here in New South Wales, Australia. I hope everyone's doing well. Haven't done a live stream for a couple of days. Had a couple of days off. Did the podcast on day we did the podcast. I think it was Thursday night or Friday night. I think it was one of the nights. Thursday night we did the podcast. Oh no, hang on. No, what day did we do the podcast? Friday night, I think it was. So I took Saturday, Sunday. I can't remember what day it was. It might have been fucking Wednesday. See, actually, no, it was Thursday. I went out. Yeah. Anyway, it was one of them nights, Wednesday or Friday. I think it was Wednesday night. I haven't done a video for nearly a week. Obviously, it's difficult this time of year to do content for you guys. There's no NRL, there's no Super League, there's no rugby league competition. It's very difficult for content creators this time of year to put out rugby league content. But tonight I have thought of a brilliant idea, and I'm going to be revealing to you guys the best 1 to 17 NRL team that I have ever seen. Now, these are basically players that played in the NRL era. So the players from the 1990s all the way back up to 1908, those players are not included. So basically, these are, in my opinion, the best 17 players of the modern era. Some of them are from 2004. Some of them are probably from 2008, 2009. Some of them are today. So the best NRL 1 to 17 team that I have seen. So this is going to be very interesting to see what kind of reaction this gets. There are a couple of very, very controversial selections. So we'll see what everyone thinks. But before I get into my team, I want to say hello to everybody in the live chat. We've got a bit of a crowd starting to build up here. Hello to Jason Reader. Hello to Cody Games PlayStation. Hello to GT. Let's go Bulldogs. Hello to Phil Rogers all the way over there in the UK. Shout out to everyone over in the UK that supports the channel and watches the channel. I hope you guys are all doing well over there in the UK. Hello to Electrical Dust as well. I hope you're doing well as well, my friend. All right. Well, we're starting to get a bit of a crowd building up here, and I'm going to go through this team right now. I'm going to go through the team along with the coach, and then I'm going to go and explain why I've got each player in this team. So here we go. Nick from Australia's best 1 to 17 NRL team of the modern era, or whatever you want to call it. Fullback, Billy Slater. On the wings, Brett Morris and Jared Hayne. In the centers, Greg Inglis, and the other center, a controversial one, Latrell Mitchell. In the halves, 5'8", Jonathan Thurston, halfback, Andrew Johns. The front row, Sam Burgess and Paul Gallen. The hooker is Cameron Smith. The second row, this one was difficult, Boyd Cordner and Steve Beaver Menzies. Lock, Jason Taumalolo. And on the bench, another controversial one for some people, James Tedesco. The other players on the bench, Petro Sevenasiva, Matt Scott, and the final player that has made the team on the bench is Sam Friday. And the coach, I was torn by probably 2 or 3 guys, but I've gone with the coach to be Wayne Bennett. That is my 1 to 17, the best 1 to 17 team that I think I've ever seen. Now, I know people are going to say, where's Laurie Daly? Where's Ricky Stewart? Where's Mal Meninga? Blah, blah, blah. Where's Andrew Eddinghausen? Like I said at the start of the video, this is players that played in the NRL era and players that I've seen. So that's my list. Now, you guys can give me some feedback in the live chat and in the comments section below what your thoughts are on my team. And look, obviously, I'll go through it now and I'll explain why I've got players in certain positions. So obviously the fullback, I've got Billy Slater. I think that's a pretty obvious one. Billy Slater is one of the greatest fullbacks of all time. Some people would argue, what about Darren Lockyer? Darren Lockyer is extremely close on this list. He would probably make majority of other people's list, but I've left him out here. But Billy Slater, his accomplishments speak for itself. And when I saw Darren Lockyer play, he was a 5'8" at the Broncos. And he probably should be an immortal in my opinion, but Billy Slater as a fullback, in my opinion, was a little bit too good for me, or for mine. So fullback is Billy Slater. Now the wingers, Brett Morris and Jared Hayne. Now I'll start with Brett Morris. I'm going to say this with the utmost respect to the other wingers that have played the game. Brett Morris is the greatest winger I have ever seen play in my life. Brett Morris is a try-scoring machine. He was so quick on the wing. He could do a job for you. Experience. He had leadership qualities about him. BMOS was one of those wingers where you can rely on him to score you a try or to make a try-saving tackle. So Brett Morris, for me, I reckon it's an easy one. Brett Morris is on the wing. The other winger is Jared Hayne. Now, we all know Jared Hayne played majority of his NRL career at fullback, played a little bit in the centers on the wing, played a little bit of 5'8" here and there. But the reason why Jared Hayne makes the team is because you look at Jared Hayne's rugby league career as a whole, you cannot leave him out of the team. Jared Hayne is one of the greatest players I have ever seen in my life. Jared Hayne's talent, his natural ability was just beyond words. Jared Hayne, 2009, one of the best I ever saw as a kid. Jared Hayne, 2014, insane as well. What he did for New South Wales that year in Origin, defeating Hayne. Hayne defeated Slater, Thurston, Cronk, Smith, all these guys in Origin. Actually, I don't even think Cronk and Slater were playing in that series, but Hayne defeated the guys like Thurston, guys like Smith in an Origin decider, and that's very difficult to do. So Jared Hayne's career, forget the off-field drama. Jared Hayne's one of the greatest players to ever play the game. Centers, Greg Inglis and Latrell Mitchell. I'll start with Inglis. I think Greg Inglis is an easy one. I think he's one of the first guys picked. GI. I think GI could potentially become an NRL immortal one day. He's, in my opinion, Greg Inglis is the greatest center I've ever seen. I know Melbourne was chatting with the salary cap and all that drama back in from 06 to 2010. But when Inglis was playing center, he was practically untouchable. When he played center for Australia and for Queensland, he was practically untouchable. He was the best center in the game. One of the best centers I've ever seen, Inglis. So GI, a freak of nature. So he makes the center position. The other center, now this is the controversial one. Everyone will get upset about this. Latrell Mitchell. Now, Latrell Mitchell, he is still pretty young into his NRL career. But if Latrell Mitchell were to retire tomorrow, he would be talked about as one of the best centers to play the game. Look at Latrell Mitchell's career. He debuted in 2016. He became a regular starter for the Roosters in 2017. He won a comp with the Roosters back-to-back in the centers, 2018, 2019. And then, 2020, I think that was his last year at the Roosters, and he went to Souths. He has been outstanding at Souths as well. Latrell Mitchell, like I said, if he were to retire tomorrow, you look at his accomplishments, you look at all that he's done in the game. Latrell Mitchell could retire tomorrow and be one of the best centers that's played the game. And every time you play Latrell at center, it's like you can't stop him. And if you go back to the World Cup that just previously happened, Latrell Mitchell in the centers without Okar, that combination itself was absolutely insane. So Latrell Mitchell, I think he deserves to be on this list. And in my opinion, he is one of the best centers to ever play rugby league, especially of the modern era. Now let's go to the halves. Thurston and Johns. Now I'll start with Thurston. Let me just say this. I think Jonathan Thurston is the greatest halfback of all time. I think he is. The reason why I've got him at 5'8" with Andrew Johns at halfback is because that as a combination itself is literally untouchable. If you had a combination of Jonathan Thurston and Andrew Johns, name me a better halves pairing. Oh, wait. No one will be able to do it. Thurston and Johns of the modern era. Who's going to stop that? Who is going to stop that? Thurston and Johns as a halves pairing, practically untouchable. So Thurston at 5'8", I mean, his resume speaks for itself. 4 Dally M's, 2 grand final wins, 36 origins in a row, plenty of test match wins for Australia, won a World Cup. I could go on and on all night about JT, but JT, he's the first guy picked in the halves, without question. And the halfback, I've got Andrew Johns. Now, Andrew Johns was coming to the end of his career when I was a young fella. So back in 2005, I remember as a kid, the Newcastle Knights were horrible. Like they were coming dead last. And Andrew Johns literally took Newcastle. I think he had about 11 man of the match performances in a row. Andrew Johns was one of the best halves I've ever seen play. His kicking game was outstanding. If you go back to 2005, Origin Game 2, one of the best performances from a halfback I've ever seen. Andrew Johns, he was always clutch. He always stepped up to the plate when the game was on the line. So I think Joey in the halves is an absolute no-brainer. So Jonathan Thurston and Andrew Johns are my halves. The props. Now, these guys played pretty much lock their whole career, but you got to have them in the team somewhere. The front row, Sam Burgess and Paul Gallen. Whether you like them or you hate them, you've got to have them in the team. Now, I'll start with Sam Burgess. Won a comp with South in 2014. England captain, England international, tough as nails. Sam Burgess is one of the greatest forwards I've ever seen in my life. Sam Burgess was a freak of nature. He was tough. He was physical. He was unbelievable. Sam Burgess was the complete package, man. Dead set. If you're looking for an aggressive prop that's going to get up in the face on halves and other players on the field, Sam Burgess is your man. So I think Sam Burgess, for me, if he's not in your 17, I would actually be very surprised. The other front rower I've got here is Paul Gallen. Now, Paul Gallen's career obviously played a majority of it at lock. Have a look at his accomplishments. I know he only won one comp, but he was the captain of that team in 2016 for the Sharks when they won their first premiership. You have a look at Paul Gallen's career, right? He captained New South Wales on Origin Series. He won a World Cup. He played in the grand final with Cronulla. Sorry, bloody got the hiccups here. Paul Gallen, you don't have to like him. You can even hate his guts. But just put your personal differences aside for a moment. Go back and look at the career of Paul Gallen and tell me that in this NRL modern era, the NRL era itself, tell me Paul Gallen's not in the 17. He's in there somewhere, whether he be starting, whether he be on the bench. Paul Gallen is in the team somewhere. I don't care what anyone says. You can call him a drug addict. You can call him a drug cheat, whatever you want to call him. But Paul Gallen's NRL career was absolutely phenomenal. He was tough as nails. He was aggressive. He was very consistent. Paul Gallen deserves to be in this team. So Paul Gallen's in the starting front row with Sam Burgess. Now the hooker, obviously Cameron Smith. I can't name anyone else. The closest person to Cameron Smith for me is probably Danny Badiris. After that, you'd probably argue someone like a Mick Ennis or Robbie Farah. But there wasn't that many other hookers of this era that were close to the level of Cameron Smith. Now, we all know Cameron Smith played over 400 games in the NRL for the Melbourne Storm. If you count international origins and the World Club Challenge, Smith played over 500 games. So look at his career. He won plenty of grand finals. He won a grand final in 2012, 2017, 2020, 3 premierships, a golden boot, 2 Dally M's. Not much more to say about Cameron Smith. He's probably one of the first guys picked on your team. So Cam Smith is the hooker, and it's a no-brainer. Now, the second row, I found this actually quite difficult. I think the second row was probably the hardest for me. Now, I'll start with this first one. I'm going to go with Boyd Cordner. Now, Boyd Cordner, he only just recently retired a couple of years ago due to several concussions. Now, retiring over concussions is a pretty good way to look. I wouldn't say it's a good way to end your career, but it's like no more. I've got to say, Boyd Cordner, he deserves to be here. He won 3 grand finals. He played Origin. He captained a couple of Origin series for New South Wales. He won a World Cup in 2017. Boyd Cordner, I think, deserves to be in the back row. I know a lot of people are going to say, oh, but he was on a stacked Roosters team, blah, blah, blah. You can only do – you can't help if you're on a stacked team. If you're on a stacked team, you're on a stacked team. It is what it is. That's not the player's fault. Boyd Cordner, yes, he was around good players, but he made players around him better. So, for me, I think Boyd Cordner is one of the best back rowers of the modern era. So, Boyd Cordner is one of the second rowers. And the other second rower, a lot of you guys might think this guy's a bit of a comedy act on Fox Sports, but the other second rower is Steve Beaver Menzies. Steve Menzies, man, special talent. One of the best back rows I've ever seen. Go back to 2008 for Manly. What he did for Manly that season, coming off the bench, playing a bit of a versatile role. When he started in the back row, it was just a different level. Look back on his NRL career. Steve Menzies, man, consistent Origin player, consistent Australia player. Did so much for Manly as a club. The Beaver, he was such a good back row, man. And he was quick for a back row too, because back in the old days, the 2003 to 2008 days, second rowers weren't usually that quick, and Beaver was extremely quick. He was a very versatile back rower. Could play a little bit of centre if need be. Steve Menzies, man, one of the best second rowers I've ever seen play. So the Beaver makes the list. The lock, well, Sam Burgess and Paul Gallen in the front row. The lock is Jason Taumalolo, and a bit like Latrell Mitchell, if Taumalolo retired tomorrow, we'd be talking about him as one of the greatest forwards of all time. And look, it's hard to say if he is the best forward of all time because different eras, different generations, different positions. But you go back to the year 2000 and you go up to now, Taumalolo, he would be in, I reckon Taumalolo would be in 90% of everyone's best 1 to 17. Jason Taumalolo, without a doubt, one of the best forwards of this modern era and potentially a top 5, top 10 forward of all time. Taumalolo has done it all, man. He's won a Dally M. He's won a grand final. He's won a World Club Challenge. He's a consistent forward at the Cowboys. Averages over 200 meters. He was averaging about 180 meters a game to 200 meters a game. I think last year, 2022, I think he was averaging about 170 to 180 a game, which is just freakish. And Taumalolo doesn't even play 80 minutes. He plays about 60, 65 minutes a game. So you got to think, if Taumalolo was an 80-minute player, he's probably averaging about 210 meters a game, which is just insane. So Jason Taumalolo, for mine, probably the best lock I've ever seen. So Tamalolo makes the team as well. And now we'll go to the bench. We'll go a bit quicker with the bench. First player on the bench, jersey number 14. Outside back for the Roosters, James Tedesco. A few people are going to be upset about this. Oh, where's Cronk? Oh, where's Lockyer? Where's all these other players? James Tedesco, I'm telling you right now, is one of the best talents I've ever seen play. Tedesco, man, freakish. Tedesco has done it all, man. He's won, 2 grand finals, Dally M, Golden Boot, fucking Origin captain, just led the Kangaroos to the he just led the Kangaroos to the Rugby League World Cup victory. Tedesco has done it all. And look, this is going to sound very controversial, and I think people might get upset about this. But in my opinion, James Tedesco is the second best fullback of all time. You've got Slater as number 1. I think Tedesco is the second best. I know you've got likes of Minichiello and Brett Stewart and Matty Bowen and Preston Campbell and guys like Mullins, and the list goes on and on and on. Hayne, Trebojevic. But I reckon Tedesco is one of the best fullbacks of all time. I reckon he's number 2. Tedesco makes the bench. The next person on the bench, Petro Sevenasiva. Big Petro, man. Fucking, he was a warrior, Petro Sevenasiva. I know a lot of the people that watch my live stream would probably say I didn't say much of Petro, so it's hard for them to comment. But Petro Sevenasiva was one of the best props of all time. Outstanding career, incredible performer. Petro, for me, if he's not in your 1 to 17, I'd actually be quite surprised. Petro was a workhorse. 2 more players to go, guys. Jersey number 16 on the bench for me is Matt Scott. Matt Scott, again, consistent Origin player, and for the Kangaroos as well, and for the Cowboys. Probably the best prop in the game before all that injury happened for Matt Scott. I think 2014 to 2018, Matt Scott was probably the best prop in the game. So he was so consistent too on an international level as well. Matt Scott did so much for the game. You look back on his career, incredible career for Matt Scott, and I think he'd probably go down as one of the best props of the modern era. So Matt Scott, for me, deserves to make the bench. And the final player I've got for my team is number 17 on the bench, big Sammy Fide. I think Sam Fide deserves to be here. Sam Fide's career as a whole was excellent. I know people that watch my channel don't have the knowledge of going like 05, 06. Like some of you guys might not remember Sam Fide, but Sam Fide, before he was a comedian and a funny guy on the footy show, was an absolute gun. Sam Fide, as a youngster, was one of the best forwards in the comp. He started as a prop. He was a top 5 prop in the game. And then he moved to the back row, played some great footy in the back row. Consistent for Queensland, always getting picked for Australia, always making the starting side. Sam Fide was insane. One of the best forwards I've seen play, Sam Fide. I know he's a bit of a funny guy nowadays on ads and whatever, but look at Sam Fide's career, man. Incredible, consistent performer. Didn't really give a shit about the opposition, just ripped in and had a go. So Sam Fide is the final player on the team. And the coach, well, for me, you've got Trent Robinson, you've got Craig Bellamy, you've got Wayne Bennett. I've gone with Wayne Bennett. To have a great team, you need a great coach. And I think if I'm going to be giving away my best 7, I might as well give away the coaching. Look, I've got to go Wayne Bennett. I think Craig Bellamy may have passed him, but it's very close. But for me, I think Wayne Bennett is probably the best coach I've seen. You look at what he's done with a couple of sides. For example, have a look at Wayne Bennett. Look what he did at the Dragons. He went to the Dragons in 2009. Instantly made them a top 4 team. They finished first that year. 2010, they finished first again, and they actually win the comp. So Wayne Bennett, it took him 2 years, and the Dragons won a premiership. And then he went to Newcastle. His first year at Newcastle was a bit a bit sloppy. The next season, 2013, underdogs as hell. They make it to the preliminary final and get knocked out by the Roosters. And then leaves Newey, goes back to Brisbane. First year with Brisbane, gets them to a grand final, which was just insane. And then he heads down to the Rabbits, does a great job there, gets them to a grand final. Obviously, they just lost. And now he's gone to the Dolphins, the new kids on the block. We'll see how long it takes Wayne to get the Dolphins going, but it took him 2 years to get the Dragons going. It took him 2 years to get Newcastle back up into the Final Four. It took him about a year and a half to make Souths a great team. And now he's gone to the Dolphins. So we'll see how Wayne Bennett goes there. But Wayne Bennett has proven that he can go to other clubs and he can make teams great. Teams like Wayne Bennett can make a team that's like 11th, 12th at best, make them top 4 within 12 months. Bang. So Craig Bellamy's never left the Melbourne Storm. He's never coached anywhere else at a head coaching role. So you've got to give Wayne Bennett credit. He's done so much at other clubs. So Wayne Bennett's the best coach of all time for me. Unless Craig Bellamy goes to a different club and gets them a comp and whatever, then we'll have the conversation. But anyway, guys, that's going to wrap up tonight's live stream. If you enjoyed tonight's show, make sure you give it a like and a subscribe. Until next time, guys, enjoy your Monday night. Have a fantastic Tuesday tomorrow. And I will see you guys in the next one. Until then, take care, everyone.